Hi, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Conscious Grief series. Today, I am joined by Debbie Squizzero, who is a gifted psychic medium, evidential psychic medium, and a spiritual healer who has a natural ability to connect with spirit. And she's often known as the singing medium. And I'm so excited to sit with you today, Debbie. It's just already been such a pleasure to get to know you.
Oh, Tara, likewise. I am just so grateful for this opportunity. I love what you're about. I love this whole series. So I am honored that you have asked me to be a guest. So I thank you so much.
Well, I know that we're going to have a very uplifting and fun time together because we've already been having a good time talking before we started.
Absolutely. I'm
And
all
I
about it.
so that
Because I feel grief is such a heavy subject. I always say that to people. Grief is such a heavy subject. So I'm all about how can we lighten this a little bit, you know? So that's
exactly.
why I do. That's why I love that the singing medium part. Like, since I started opening up, spirit brings me messages in song, which I find really lightens the mood a lot. And I will tell people it just pops into my head like I hear it on the radio. And I love that. It really does help lighten things a lot for people.
100%. So, and you're an educator as well. I mean, that was your life for many years, being a teacher.
Yes, for 23 years, I was a special education, early childhood, kindergarten and first grade special education teacher for 23 years. And 10 of those years, I did work my mediumship in my business on the side. And then eventually Spirit, that's another whole story in itself, but eventually Spirit in 2019 was like, listen, this has been long enough. So you need to really step into your path. And so I did. With resistance, as we all do, because I've learned in this lifetime that the thing or situation that we resist the most is really the thing we need to embrace the most. So I've learned that. So I jumped in full till in 2019 and I haven't looked back. And I'm just so grateful and honored to be able to serve spirit, to help others. I always say, my mission as a medium is to help, to heal, to empower, to inspire. And most of all, I feel like I was the teacher for 23 years so that I could also educate people about spirit on the other side. So that's my mission as a psychic medium.
Well, I think that's a really great segue into the first question because I think one of the most interesting things that can happen when somebody dies is a form of awakening, because maybe it's not been on people's consciousness or minds to think about like death and what happens when we die, what happens, where do we go, what is the point of being here, and starting to ask these big questions. And so what would you say to people, Debbie, about, what are we doing here? Where do we go when we die? What's the point of all of this?
This is one of my favorite things to talk about. And I discuss it frequently with my clients. So if somebody comes in for a reading and has never had a reading, or even people that have had a reading, I always say to them, can I just let you know, explain energy? That's how I say to them. I said, let me explain energy to you, because I always say that, and this is the truth, part of this human journey that we have all signed up for is grief and loss. In a human form, we have all agreed at some way, shape, or form to experience grief and loss. And no one is immune, whether it be age, race, or religion. We are not immune to grief and loss. It is definitely part of the human journey. So I tell people that, listen, we have a heart and it beats, and we say that we are a human being. But at the end of the day, what really trumps being a human being is that we are a spiritual, energetic, vibrational being. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, when I tell people, listen, I joke a lot in my readings, and I say to them, listen, I'm just trying to get you to laugh and loosen up. I always say I mean it with love and respect. I just got to get you to laugh a little bit, right? So I tell people, listen, this human dense body that I call either your meat suit, your costume, your leased vehicle, whatever you want to call it, it is just a house for your soul, because at the core and the essence of who we are a divine, energetic, vibrational, spiritual being. So when our journey and our time is done here in the physical world, and I'm going to back up and say, people will say, well, why do we come here? What is the reason to come here? It's hard here. And I tell people, listen, your soul signs up to come to this place, which and many people refer to this as Earth School. And at this Earth School place, I tell people that it's heaven and hell all wrapped into one. We've got days that are amazing, and we have days and situations that are crippling, debilitating, challenging, hard. We are helpless, hopeless, all by the same. Another day we're elated, enjoy, and so your soul chooses to come to the physical world for 4 reasons. We come here to learn, to love, to grow, and I never can do this one, to teach. And we are a teacher and a student for each other here. So your soul chooses to have a physical incarnation in this physical world, Earth School, to learn, to love, to grow, and to teach as a soul. You are a soul having a human experience here. So when our time is done here all right, hold on. Happens to me. Spirit will back me up and say, finish with this. So I just heard them say to me, we also come here to the physical world and to Earth School to have certain experiences. And that looks different for everybody. We all sign up for different experiences. This is why I say to people, listen, we're not comparing. We're not, I have it harder than you, because we all signed up for something different, just like a fingerprint, just like a snowflake. My whole life is unique to me. My whole being is unique to me, as yours is to you, and, to each person. So when we sign up for these experiences, we come here to learn them. And what I understand too is that no soul learns or masters an experience, and I'll explain what I mean by an experience, in one lifetime. They show me that we have many lifetimes that we come back and forth between the non-physical and the physical world, which is hard for some people to wrap their brain around. And I understand that because I'm going to get to the energy about your soul and how that happens. But we go back and forth. So experiences might be, like I say, we've all signed up for the grief and loss experience. That's part of the human journey and living here. People might sign up for worthiness. A lot of us sign up for the worthiness experience. There are different experiences that we sign up for here. Some of us might sign up to be like, I want to be a leader in what I do and have that experience the good, the bad, but whatever it is, but there are different experiences. So when our time is done here in the physical world, we actually shed this physical body, and any mental, emotional, spiritual, or physical obstacle, challenge, anything that we struggled with here does not go with us to the other side, heaven, whatever you want to call it. And people call it different things. Spirit frequently refers to the other side for me. I call it other side or heaven. I go back and forth. But so you leave here, people, because the number one question that people always ask me, but Debbie, is my loved one okay? And I say to them, listen, no matter how they passed, tragically, in an unexpected way, in a very peaceful, expected way, I need you to know that they have left here in the physical world any of those troubles, and their soul, their spirit, and their energy just makes this lateral transition to another realm of consciousness and another dimension, which we refer to as heaven, the other side, the universe, whatever you want to refer to it. It's all the same is what Spirit shows me. We just have different names for the same thing. And the teacher in me for so long is like, listen, I said, Spirit, I need a visual of like soul. Like, what does that look like? Like, that's too abstract for me. What does it look like? So Spirit for me showed me this white, round, vibrating ball of energy, which is beautiful. And so I picture that as the soul. So when our time is done here, the soul actually leaves through the top of the head. And the soul, this is what I tell people, spirit is so intelligent. They are an infinite intelligence. We question all the time because we're here with ego in a 3D dense body. And your loved ones, when, in spirit, is so, like I said, so intelligent that they know when their time is done here, that the soul immediately leaves through the top of the head, never feels any pain, never feels any of that. The soul, the physical body is still here, but the soul, the energy, and the spirit is long gone. A lot of times as a medium, I will channel and say, I see they're showing me themselves outside looking in at this car wreck or at this situation or at this chaotic scene at the house. Like they'll show me the soul has left, the top of the head has left the body and does not experience any of that. So I like to put my clients or people at ease and at rest to say, I need you to know they are safe, at peace, they are okay, they are not struggling. If anything, they are better than they have ever been. And that's hard for us to wrap our brain around, but they really are better than they've ever been. And a lot of times to prove that, a lot of times as a medium, I will channel and I'll say, your mom or your dad, your brother, they're showing me, they will show themselves to me. A lot of times for me, I get it through a picture. I'll say, do you have a picture that looks like la, la, la? And they'll say, yeah. And I'll say, it's kind of way back, right? When they were this age or this age. And they'll say, yes. And I'll say to them, okay, I said, your mother, father person wants me to acknowledge this for two reasons. One, I'm an evidential medium. I want evidence. So I want you to know that I'm connecting with them and their soul, their spirit, and their energy. They're referencing this picture. And when our loved ones go to the other side, we have what's called a life review. That means all those experiences I talked about, we watch a movie of our life, of those experiences. We watch that movie through other people's eyes. How did we make other people feel when we made these choices and decisions? So we watch that. I totally just love, spirit does this to me. Sometimes I get off track. They guys, get me back on track. We watch that movie of our life and we see life through other people's eyes. And what were we the resiliency in the soul. Thank you. So this happens sometimes. They get me off track and I'm like, where are we going? They sometimes will show me the next thing they want me to talk about and I lose track of where we are. I apologize. But we see that that life review of how we've made other people feel. And the other thing I tell people is that, listen, we all don't go to that perpetual light in the sky, I'll say. When I say they, meaning spirit. And when I say spirit, people will say to me, what do you mean by spirit? So spirit, oh, I know. I started talking about the evidential. They're showing me. I'm so sorry, Tara. This has happened. Let me go back to the picture. They'll show me, and then we'll go to the perpetual light. Thank you. They'll show me a certain particular time in their life. And they do that because they want you to know when they get to the other side and watch their life review, they personally feel that is the time in their life where they felt their best and looked their best. And that's different to every soul and spirit. So some will come through, midlife. Some come through really young. I'll be like, there's a black and white picture of X, Y, and Z. And they'll be like, yes. I go, so that's when they felt like when they were here on their journey, that they felt their best and looked their best in their opinion. So I find that a pretty cool thing. That's why they reference that a lot of times. So I started saying about that perpetual light in the sky, but do you want me to keep going or do you have an, it's all just kind of rolling for me.
Keep going.
Okay. They're talking about when I started talking about the picture and then the life review, it kind of rolled into this, like, well, where do they go? And when I say they make a lateral transition to another realm of consciousness, or they're just in another state of being, what that means is, first of all, as an evidential medium and as a teacher of 23 years, I'm always like saying, well, give me an example. I need an example. I need people to understand concretely here. What does that look like? What does that mean? And they have showed me and said, Deb, when you go to sleep, you're in another realm of consciousness. You're in another state of being. And that's where your loved ones are, except where they don't have this physical body. All they have is this beautiful soul, this white, I'm going to call it this white, round, vibrating ball of energy. They're this beautiful soul now. And they have shed any of those challenges they have, because what I understand too from the other side, what they tell me all the time, the other side is just this, it's a beautiful place of unconditional love. They will frequently tell me love here in the physical world is a feeling, but love on the other side is the state of being that happens, or we know no other feeling or state. And that's why your soul chooses to come to the physical world to learn, to love, to grow, to teach, to have these ego-based experiences that we do not know about on the other side. Your loved ones are not judging you on the other side. That's the other thing. People say, oh my God, what does my mother think? What is, I said, you know what? Here's what they think. They want you to just do what's good for you. They honor that you have a journey here, and they understand that more than ever now on the other side. So they want you to do what's right for you. We can ask them for help all the time. I love that. That's what they want us to do. They want us to call on them. Now, I love it when I say, listen, we all want like that loved one on the other side to show up and go, so listen, this is what I think you should do. Don't take the offer on that house. There's another house that's going to come up in 2 weeks. Buy that one, you know. And I always say, listen, it doesn't work that way. That because they're energy now. They are this beautiful vibrating ball of energy. So the way that they're going to get your attention is by coincidence, which is not a coincidence, putting things in front of you, putting people, places, situations, opportunity. That is perfect timing, divine timing. You couldn't have set it up better if you tried, because this is your loved one saying, I'm sending this to you. Now you in the physical world have free will choice about what you want to do with that. And I tease all the time. I always say, listen, I ask my grandmother for help all the time, and she's on the other side going, this kid picks wrong every single time. And I said, listen, I'm here to learn like everybody else. That's, you know, I have my own journey here too. And I learned by sitting with my clients. But on the other side, again, I asked them for an example. I said, well, when you say unconditional love, what does that look like? Because that's, again, people can't understand that because we're here having this human physical existence and journey. And it's hard for us to wrap our brain around. And so they showed me one day animals. And I went, oh, you guys blow me away all the time. They showed me animals. They are unconditional love. That's how it is on the other side. So when people say, well, Debbie, what does it look like? Here's a concrete example for you. This is what it looks like. Your animals don't judge. They don't judge. They love you regardless. This is your loved one on the other side. When they were here, it was a different story because we were here for a journey and an experience. But on the other side, they just want you to be happy and loved and do what's good for you on your journey. So they're not judging you for your choices and decisions at all. And the last thing I'll say to wrap all this up in this one question, I'm sorry, but one thing leads to another. See, I play me those songs every once in a while. They're showing me like on the other side, because I get this question frequently, which is a very normal, expected question. People will say, well, Debbie, you just talked about all this love, and people go, listen, people do bad things here. Like, so they go to this place of love. Like there are people that do horrible, unspeakable, heinous things here. They go to this place of love. And I say, yes, they do. Here's the thing. On the other side, there's a couple of facets to this. Spirit has shown me when your soul makes that transition to the other side, there are many layers to the other side, heaven, whatever you want to call it. Again, I say to Spirit, give me an example. They say, listen to anybody who's had a near-death experience. They will talk about different layers or different colors as they moved up this column, or they will have seen animals or colors or experiences that they cannot explain, that is not like it is here in the physical world. They can't put it into words. And so what happens is when we make these choices that are not the best, or if we decide to cut our journey short here in the physical world, nothing bad happens. We just have a lot of healing as a soul to do on the other side. So when I say healing, people are like, David, what does that mean, healing? Well, this is what it looks like. There are some layers on the other side that are like a dimmer, darker, grayish areas, what they show me. They're not, I like to say, listen, I want to dispel this Hollywood myth. Nobody's being chained. There's no fiery hells. There's not, it's just not there. They show me that they go to a dimmer, darker area, like a dark gray area, and they just do a lot of work on themselves. What does that mean? Whatever they couldn't do while they were here, once they had their life review, they see, oh, gee, I really didn't do well here, and I could have done a lot better here. And you know what? I was an absentee dad for my daughter at this time. So what they will start to do is they will start to be that person that they were unable to be here in the physical world. And people say, well, how does that work? Well, again, they will start to either put maybe they're going to bring you a stepdad who was like the dad that you really wanted and couldn't be. And so your biological dad is going to bring you a stepdad into your life. That's an amazing dad. They might hook you up and put in front of you career choices that you could have never come up with or achieved or even thought of on your own. Like I heard this song, have a little help from my friends. Yes, you have a little help from your friends, your family. And as they start doing that, and Spirit has also shown me on the other side, I love this. They always show me like, there's Spirit School on the other side. So they show me always these like little church buildings, and that's like school where we go and to work on ourselves and the experiences that we came here to do. And most times, because of spirit and an energy, we don't master that experience one go around here in the physical world. We take some time to learn, we take some time to heal, and then we may or may not, usually we do because we have to, it takes us more than one time, come back to the physical world. And we may come back as a different gender. We might come back as a different, like, instead of being a daughter, maybe we come back as a mother. Like it's crazy good, but that's and as they do their healing, they move up this beautiful column of light. And as they rehabilitate the soul, I like to say, on the other side, that's what helps us move up this beautiful column of light. And that's where the love comes in. I always say your body comes to this physical world and we have two experiences. Either we're going to deal with, sometimes we deal with a physical illness here, and sometimes we deal with an illness of the mind. So it's like one or the other, or sometimes both, but that's that's how they show me the energy. What are we doing here? Why do we come here? Why do we come to this place? Who are the people here? I had always, in my 20s, I did a lot of reading on the afterlife. I'm in my early 50s now. So in my 20s, I was like, I've always been a voracious reader, but I had so many questions and I did a lot of reading. And then once I started to develop as a medium, oh my God. So I'd go into meditation and I'd see and I'd ask questions and I journaled. And so it's just, I want to educate and help as many people and let them know it's not scary. And your loved ones they're better than they've ever been. And I want you to know that. I don't want you to be afraid for them.
Thank you, Debbie. And it's making me think about, the people who have suffered a lot of loss in their lives, like sometimes there are just some people who have to experience multiple losses of people who they love and who are close to them, and it's particularly challenging. And I just wondered, for those people who might be sitting there going, what, I would have chosen this, really? Why would I choose this?
Such a good question. And like having those successive losses. Spirit has shown me, we use that term, an old soul. So from what I understand, an old soul, Spirit has showed me, an old soul is a soul that has incarnated between the non-physical and the physical many different lifetimes. So you'll see like little ones and you'll say, oh my God, they're only like 8, but they're sitting like they'll sit on the couch like they're like an old man, or they'll have this wisdom or knowledge that a typical 6 or 8-year-old would not have, or they'll have this compassion, say, for like children who have handicaps or sickness. Like you'd be like, I didn't teach them that. Like, how do they just know to either, be that, help them out in that way or step up in that way? And so from what I understand, this is like the Spirit shows me when we go back and forth between the physical and the non-physical, we go over there and we say, okay, I did this. Check. I'd like to go back and my soul would like to do some more learning. I'm going to pick something harder. We do this on an unconscious level. Think of it like amnesia. So we plan it all out and then we come here to the physical world and we have this is where I feel like personally, I just feel like where like deja vu comes in, or this like familiarity of people comes in, because we've had other lifetimes, and I'll explain that, besides this one. And to answer your question about having a lot of heavy stuff, what I understand is Spirit says this phrase to me a lot: the stronger the soul, the harder the learning or the lesson here. That means that soul That energy has had many incarnations here, has done many difficult things. And it's almost like I pictured as they go over to the other side, I go, okay, I did that. My soul wants more. I did that. My soul wants more. I'm ready. And I tell people, some of the strongest souls here, look at a homeless person. They are how strong is that soul to say, listen, I am going to survive on nothing. That's a strong soul here. And it's sad because a lot of us don't look at it that way while we're here in the physical world. We look at it very differently. That's a person who's here to teach compassion. That's a person that's here to teach love. That they are a very, very strong soul. Or somebody, or you see who's had like successive like cancers and have like survived, and they're like, I can't take one, and then one more thing comes, and they are just a very strong on an unconscious, subconscious level. Yes, you do write the script. You do write. And let me explain more about that, because I get that often, because people are saying, Debbie, there's no way that I signed up for. And maybe a person who has a lot of these illnesses or sicknesses signed up for this lesson because they said, listen, this experience, because they said, I want to help science while I'm here. My soul wants to help science advance. So you know what? I'm going to sign up for this, this, and this. It is going to be so tough as a soul, but I really, at the end of the day, I want to help humanity, and this is what I want to do. So that's sometimes how it works. Sometimes we see children who leave the physical world with a sickness or an illness, and we say, I don't understand. They didn't have like this chance. They were here for just a short time. First of all, their soul signed up to be here for just a short time, maybe to teach others about love and compassion. And a lot of times those children are very old souls, is what I find. They've had other lifetimes. And that's why they'll be the coolest, calmest, most collected person throughout, say, like a childhood illness, or they've had other lifetimes in which they were unable to accept love, compassion. They were unable to accept that. So in this lifetime or this human incarnation, they said, this is what I'm going to do as an old soul. And I'm going to be forced to understand, to learn, to know, to experience what it's like for people to show me love and compassion, because I've done that in other lifetimes. Here's where I like to say quantum physics. So the soul is this energy. When it's here in a 3D body, we are just here and now. That's it. We can't be in 3, 4, 5 different places at one time. When the soul is energy, it's multidimensional. It can be in more than one place at one time. That's why I say to people, listen, sometimes you may get signs from your loved ones. There are many times during the day, like I'll get a sign from my grandmother, my mother, my sister, like we'll all be like, oh, she's around everybody today, right? That's the beauty of the whole thing. But your soul absolutely signs up, and sometimes for those really hard assignments. And yes, so think of it like this, to just recap. Think of it this way. And when you see these people who have very difficult experiences in the physical world, most of the time, almost all the time, they're an old soul. They've had many lifetimes here. They're here to teach. They're here to show us the way. They're here to help us experience and know. Oh my God, I hear foreigner. I never heard this one before. I want to know what love is. That's a first for me. Okay. So that's why it's crazy. I hear it like it's on the radio, Tara. It's like it's going to impulsively come out of my mouth. But see how it fits? Like I could never come up with that song on my own. So I'm so divinely guided in that way. I'm so grateful. But so to answer your question, that either successive loss, hero, whatever that is. And the other thing spirits show me too, they want me to talk about the soul family. So we all have what's called a soul family. On the other side, I tell people, think of it like I know we are family. We are. And think of it like a tree branch. Take off all the leaves, put on those beautiful white vibrating balls, or the souls, right? And people say, well, Debbie, who or what is this soul family? And I say, well, take a look at your life around you right now. This is your soul family. Your parents, your siblings, it could be step parents, it could be siblings that are step siblings, half siblings, your pets, your friends, your aunts, your uncles, these people, your coworkers, yes, they're all in your soul family. And what happens is, I tell people, when it's hard to wrap your brain around it, think of it like this. It's a movie. It's a movie here, and you are the director. You have free will choice to hire, fire, act accordingly, do whatever you need to do. When things get really tough, I kind of like distance myself and I go, Deb, remember, this is a movie at some point. It helps me just wrap my brain around my experiences sometimes. But you can incarnate and you can be a male or a female. So sometimes we see, this is my favorite example. We see a person and we're like in a romantic relationship, we're like, oh, this is my soulmate. And it's the hardest relationship of your life, because a soulmate can be somebody who teaches you love. It can be somebody that teaches you some hard lessons too. And they might have this familiarity, because people say, but Dad, there's just something that's drawing me in. I'm like, I got that. Totally got it. Totally got it. Because this person's in your soul family. Okay. You've had other lifetimes. The energy of the soul feels familiar. And I understand that, because if I read for a person not a number of times, I'll say, this energy feels familiar. I've said this to you before. So I understand that familiarity of the energy. So I'm like, so this person is in your soul family. So maybe you had this lesson in another lifetime, or this experience, or maybe this person was, you were, maybe you're boyfriend and girlfriend in this lifetime, or husband and wife. Maybe you were siblings in another lifetime. Maybe you were cousins. Maybe you were best friends. But that's where that familiar, I tell people, that's just because you feel like, oh, does not mean it's the love of your life. Sometimes it means, oh, it's going to be either a really good lesson or experience, or a hard. We tend, because of what society shows us and movies in Hollywood, sometimes we tend to get wrapped up in this soulmate is like this, which it is, but there's also soulmates that come to teach us really hard things as well. So it's both things. So to summarize that whole thing, Spirit always says to me, the stronger the soul, the harder the lesson. And it's usually an old soul with those harder, challenging lessons or experiences.
And it's making me think a little more about, even though I totally believe in that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, but it's like, why do we forget that? And why are we wired that way? So then when somebody passes and dies, that it's so hard. Because if we came here with more of a knowing that we're here, we're all connected, that we're going to be together again, then it would be easier. But why are we like constructed in a way that we forget that?
I love this question. That's such a great question. Spirit always shows me that, remember I said, this is Earth school. It's a school. When you go to school, you got to take a test, right? Take a test. We go to school, we take a test, we have to study. So Spirit always, I love that they give me analogies all the time, or things, these examples. So they will always say, listen, if you had all the answers to the test, there would be no experience. You would have no experience. So you have to learn, take the test, see how you do. And that determines the rest of your path. And we might take that test how many times? I would say, look at the lessons or the experiences that keep repeating in your life. That's a test you got to study a little harder for. And you might not master it all in this lifetime. People who choose to be a victim in this lifetime. I always say, listen, you have two choices. We have free will choice. Look at your life through the lens of love and compassion, which took me half my life to understand, or look at it through the lens of a victim, which I did for a very long time. And so I love that question. It's so valid and legitimate, and it's true. And that's what they always show me. Like, if you had all the answers to the test, why bother having the experience? Why bother going to school? You already know it all, So you have sort of a loose, I want to call it, you have your syllabus that you make on the other side. So you make your syllabus, and you don't fully remember all of it. You remember bits and pieces of it as you come here, because there are people and situations that seem very familiar. You might visit a place and go, this place just feels like home to me. I can't explain this to you, but I know I belong here. I know I've been here before. That is your soul saying, yeah, we've done something like this before. So that's how I understand that, that learning here with the grief, and not why it's so difficult for us.
Yeah. And some of us, I guess, are just wired in such a way.
Oh, my tarot,
Oh no, am I back? Hello, Deb.
Yeah, there you are. You were frozen. I was like, oh, my Tara, she's frozen. You're back.
Yeah, I did say unstable, so
See,
sorry.
I always say that spirit. I always say that spirit.
Yeah, it's just sort of saying like some of us find it harder to let go, right? Some of us are just wired in such a way that we're gonna find the lesson of grief and death a lot harder than others. I think we have
Than other, yes, absolutely. We all have our own journey here for sure. I mean, it's hard regardless, you know. I always say we grieve so hard because we've loved so hard. The love comes out of our eyes because we ache and we miss that physical person so much. It's a real thing.
Yeah, and you must see that in your work all the time, because people are contacting you to want to connect with people who they miss so dearly on the other side.
Yeah. Tara, say the beginning of that again. Oh, you're cutting out. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying that you must see so much of that love in every day in the readings that you do with people, who are so desperately wanting to connect with.
Yes. And the one thing that I say, people will always apologize for crying. And I say, listen, do not apologize. That's all of the love. And I feel grateful that I've created a safe enough space for you here that you feel safe to cry with me, that you feel okay to show your emotions with me. That to me means a lot. And I always say to them, listen, they're like, I'm going to use all these tissues. I go, great, use those. And I got 20 more boxes where that came from. It doesn't, this is where we do this.
I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
And because this is called the Conscious Grief series, how would you like interpret that phrase of conscious grief?
Oh, I love that. You asked really good questions. In my opinion, how I view and see conscious grief, I always say, I have this phrase that I always say, listen, there is no rule book for grief. There's no playbook for life, right? We just do what's best for us. And I always say, stay true to your heart on your grief and loss journey. We are a grief illiterate society. We are. We don't talk about it as much as we should, which I love that you have this platform to educate people. So for me, conscious grief is grieving in the way that feels right for you, not what other people tell you to do, not what other people think give you a time. You stay true to you and what you believe is true for you. And while you're doing that, you are also integrating this new life, different life, completely different life. And while you are integrating yourself back into this different life, it's about finding resiliency and meaning in this new life and going through loss at the same time. So that's how I see conscious grief, in my opinion. That's just how my belief of what it looks like. And I love that everybody has a different view of that. I think it's beautiful.
Absolutely, absolutely. So Debbie, if people want to find you and stay in touch, I know that you've got a gift that you're willing to offer people. Perhaps you want to share about
Yes.
that.
Yes, I would love to share about that. So, anybody who signs up for this series, I have put together a beautiful basket of. It's got. I was a author, a multi. I was an author in an author in a multi-author book. That was a mouthful to get out. And so I have my book in there. I have some beautiful candles in there. I have some writing journals, crystals. I've got a whole bunch of things in that basket. A lot of metaphysical things in there. So I'm putting that together, and that's going to be my giveaway. So I will put all the names in and choose somebody and send that beautiful basket off.
Incredible. That's a very exciting gift. And we'll have a link to your website underneath this as well.
Thank you, Tara.
Book readings with you. They can find you there.
Oh, thank you.
And
This has been so wonderful.
oh, well, it's been such a pleasure to meet you as well.
Likewise.
As
Thank you for allowing me to share my education. I appreciate it so much.
yeah, I think it's such a great thing to hear for people who may not be familiar with the concept of the soul journey and how that can really help us make sense of our existence and death and what we're doing here and why we're here. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're so very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm truly grateful. Thank you so, so much.
You're welcome, and thank you everyone for listening. All right, bye bye.
Bye.